So one of the things that's really going to help us out and give us a lot of control once we're in Photoshop to be able to manipulate colors and vibrancy and uh, really the detail that we want to control within our image is going to be what's called masks. And anybody who uses Photoshop knows that really it just comes down to selection sets. Like I'm going to want to be able to select all of this stonework in one fell swoop, all the wood or all the vegetation or whatever it is. I'm going to want to be able to select things very easily. And there's a couple tricks we can do here in SketchUp that's going to allow us to create our selection sets within Photoshop very easy. And so we're going to go through several of them. This is going to be a tedious process, and this actually might be the longest process within the whole the whole technique here. But I think it's well worth it to be able to have these selections at your fingertips. So let's start with an easy one. We're really going to want to leave our vegetation on. We're really going to want to have our scene set the way that we want it. Because it's key so that the selection in creating selection of say the stonework, that we're not turning the landscape off, because then we'll be selecting over top of this landscaping. So we want to leave the landscape on to give us a really proper selection set. So the first thing I want to do is go back to my map export, which turns off lines, and I actually want to go to my shadows once again, and again saying use sun for shading, and we're going to bump all these up. And really what this is doing is again flattening out our image and trying to eliminate the degrees of shading and color so that we really just have one color to deal with. And let's just get into one to show you what I mean. So again, I'm going to hit B for my paint bucket, alternate for my eyedropper, and I'm going to select this material. So you can see that my coral is selected. And what I want to do is we're going to change this to a color that's extremely different from anything else in the model. And this can destroy a model, but if you're careful you can undo everything and get back to where you were. But you definitely want to make sure that your model is saved ahead of time, just in case you forget to do something. So the first thing we want to do is, again, once our material is selected, you can see it's right here, we want to go to edit, and we're going to turn texture off. So you can see the texture is turned off. And we really want to, again, like I said, make this vibrant color. And now this red is typically a really nice color because it's super easy to select, but we have a lot of vegetation in here that's red-ish, and so it's close to it. So we're going to do something maybe that's really far away from it. Maybe this blue would be good. Maybe even darker blue, so we're not so close to, maybe something between the blue and the purple, so that we're not too close to the greens for the vegetation and too close to the reds. Yeah, so we'll do this, and so I'm going to do 255, 150 on my hue, saturation, and lightness. Just an easy way to remember things, so I can be consistent. And so we have that. And so what I want to be able to do now is, again, we're just going to do our same export. So export 2D graphic, and I'm going to call this SketchUp mask and stone, and export. And again, all my options are the same. I'm not changing anything. It's imperative that we keep the pixel size the same, all that good kind of stuff. So we're going to do a quick export here. And once that's done, the important thing is let's do edit or undo our edit material. So you can see our stone's back to normal, so we're fine, our model's fine. So that's good. So we're just going to kind of keep a mental note of what we've changed, and to make sure that we can go back. So the next one we want to do is let's do our wood. So again, the same thing. I want to turn my texture off, and we are going to I believe it was 255, 150. It doesn't have to be the exact same. It's fine if it's different. We're just really looking to get this color that's extremely different from anything else. So now with that one, again, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go to File, Export, 2D Graphic. And so again, our SketchUp mask, and this one's going to be our wood. And we will export that one. And now with that one finished exporting, again, we want to undo edit material change, and there we go, we're back to normal. So just going down the list, let's do the next one. Let's say our windows. Windows, I want to make sure that there's no texture on it, so we don't need to turn that off, but I do want to make them completely opaque. And we're going to add our same color in, and we're going to do File, Export, 2D Graphic, and this is going to be Mask, Windows. And with that one exported, we want to edit or undo edit material. You can see we're back to normal. And while we're at the windows, let's go ahead and do my window frames. Now some of these we may or may not use. It's just going to be really nice and really convenient to have everything ready to go versus coming back and doing additional exports. So again, we don't need to turn texture off because there's no texture. We're already opaque. We just need to adjust the color. So we were at, I believe, 250, 100, 50. Again, I think these might be slightly different, but the only thing that matters is that we're just extremely different from anything else. So once again, we're going to do File, Export, 2D Graphic, and we're going to do Mask, and we're going to call these Frames. And once again, make sure we undo the edit material. We're going to do our grass. Now there's not a ton of grass visible in this particular view, but I still show you the technique, and it still actually will add a little bit of life to what we're going to do. So I'm going to do it anyway. Again, turn off texture and change the color. There we go, some nice purple grass. File, Export, 2D Graphic, and we're going to call this one Grass. And being consistent, make sure we undo edit material. Our grass material is back. And one of the other important ones again is the sky, but our mask, we don't need to paint the sky a particular color because as you'll see, our sky will automatically be created into a selection set in Photoshop by exporting out the PNG the way we did. And so really the last one is going to be the vegetation. This will be the trickiest one. It's not really even that tricky, it's just going to be changing multiple materials at once just to be able to give us a selection set. If you really wanted to, you can do multiple vegetation masks, just for, say, the flowers, or just for the bush, or the plants, or whatever it is. Having more control is always a good thing. It's just going to come at a cost of creating the additional masks. So for right now, we're just going to go ahead and export out just one single vegetation mask. And again, this will take a little bit of time just to go through everything, but we can quickly show it. So let's start off with our tree bark. Again, same process as before. And we're going to change our color of our leaves. Now this time I'm not going to turn off the texture image because the leaf actually has an alpha channel built into it that cuts out the individual palm fronds, and I want to be able to preserve that, and so we're simply just going to change the color, leaving the texture image there. And that's actually going to be very beneficial to us. You can see that because we left the texture on, it's creating this weird color thing, and so I'm just going to bump up my lightness or make it a little darker. It'll help us with our selection set. I don't want to go too dark to get too close to the darkness of this wood. Even though if it's off, it's still going to be okay. We're still going to be able to make it work inside of Photoshop. These palm fronds are going to be the same process. 150, but this one you can see it transformed the color much nicer. So we don't need to touch that one. We'll come down here to the plant. So again, as I was saying, it's a slightly more involved process, but it's not difficult, it's just tedious. This grass here, again, this particular grass has an alpha channel built into it that we want to preserve, so I am not going to uncheck the texture image. We're going to leave that on. We'll just adjust additionally if we need to, but it doesn't seem we need to. It's giving us a nice color. So it looks like we have one more, which will be, or one more tree. There'll be, I think, 2 or 3 materials within this tree. We have this leaf that, again, we don't want to uncheck this because of the way this is built. We're going to use the alpha channel that's already built into it. Let's see, what else? You can. It's quick and easy to see what needs to be changed because this color is so vibrant. 255, 150. So even though it's not perfectly purple, but you can see whatever is going on here is so different from anything else in the model that we're going to be okay in our selection set. So this one is good to go. So just like before, export, 2D graphic, we're going to call this mask vegetation, and export. And now with that image exported, we want to undo edit material. The only difference is we're going to need to undo it several times, or if you had the model saved, you can just close it and reopen it. But we're just going to undo, and you can see we're back to normal. And in fact, if I click on my scene, we're back to exactly where we started from, and we now have all of our masks exported out. So the next video, I'm going to show you how to export some line work, and again, it's going to be a very similar process, but we're going to be able to have a lot more control in what we want to do within Photoshop by exporting out all these different layers and compositing them later.